It was a quiet night in Brentwood, Los Angeles. June 12, 1994. A young mother, Nicole Brown Simpson, had just put her children to bed. She didn't know it would be the last night of her life. Moments later, screams shattered the stillness of the upscale neighborhood. When police arrived, they found Nicole and her friend, Ron Goldman, brutally murdered outside her home. What followed was a story that shook America. A story of fame, violence, race, and justice, all colliding in one unforgettable courtroom drama. O.J. Simpson was a name everyone knew. A football hero, an actor, a smiling face on commercials, the juice, loved by millions. But that summer, his name became synonymous with suspicion. Within days, police gathered enough evidence to charge him with the murders. Blood traces, DNA samples, and a pair of gloves found near the scene seemed to point directly to him. Then came the moment the world will never forget, the white Ford Bronco chase. Live helicopters followed Simpson as he fled down the freeway, police cars trailing behind. Millions of Americans stopped what they were doing to watch the spectacle unfold on their televisions. A national hero, now a fugitive. After hours of tension, he finally surrendered at his home in Brentwood. When the trial began in January 1995, it quickly turned into what many called the trial of the century. Cameras in the courtroom broadcast every word, every argument, every emotion. Prosecutors Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden believed they had an airtight case. The DNA evidence, they said, was undeniable, a scientific fingerprint that proved Simpson's guilt. But the defense, led by Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, F. Lee Bailey, and Robert Kardashian, saw an opening. They argued that the Los Angeles Police Department, still reeling from accusations of racism after the Rodney King beating, had mishandled and possibly tampered with evidence. When Detective Mark Fuhrman was caught lying about using racial slurs, the prosecution's credibility collapsed. And then came the glove. Simpson struggled to pull it on in front of the jury. Cochran seized the moment with a line that would echo for decades. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. For months, the trial gripped America. It was more than a question of guilt or innocence. It was about trust. Trust in the police, in the courts, in the very idea of justice. The country was divided. Many white Americans saw overwhelming evidence of guilt. Many Black Americans saw a corrupt system finally defeated by a black man who could afford a powerful defense. When the verdict was read, not guilty, the nation erupted. Some celebrated, some cried, some sat in the stunned silence. In offices, classrooms, and homes across America, people reacted not just to a legal outcome, but to what they believed it represented. But for the families of the victims, the pain only deepened. Fred and Kim Goldman, Ron's father and sister, became relentless advocates for justice. To them, Ron was not a side character in someone else's story. He was a kind young man, passionate about helping others, once a camp counselor for children with disabilities, and dreaming of opening his own restaurant. They spoke often about his warmth, his humor, and his integrity, qualities overshadowed by the media storm surrounding O.J. Simpson. Nicole's family, too, struggled to preserve her memory beyond the headlines. Her friends remembered a woman full of life and laughter, yet trapped in a cycle of fear and violence. She had called police multiple times about domestic abuse. Each time, help came too late. The civil trial in 1997 brought a different result. The jury found Simpson liable for the wrongful deaths of Nicole and Ron, ordering him to pay $33.5 million in damages. But the money could never repair the damage done, and much of that judgment remains unpaid. Years later, Simpson's book, If I Did It, reignited public anger. Marketed as a hypothetical confession, it described how the murders might have occurred if he were the killer. To many, it felt like a taunt, a reminder that justice had slipped through the system's fingers. The Goldman family acquired the rights to the book, publishing it under their control so that no profit would go to Simpson. Still, controversy followed. Some suggested that Simpson's son, Jason, might have been involved, a theory that has never been proven and remains widely dismissed. Others claim that police corruption and mishandled evidence created reasonable doubt. What remains certain is that 2 innocent lives were lost, and the full truth may never be known. The case also revealed the power of the media to shape public perception. Cameras turned courtrooms into theaters and lawyers into celebrities. Every detail was broadcast, analyzed, and dramatized. In many ways, it was the birth of the modern true crime obsession, where tragedy becomes entertainment and every viewer feels like a juror. Beyond the spectacle, the case left deep social scars. It highlighted America's divisions, racial, economic, and moral. For some, the verdict was payback against decades of police brutality. For others, it was proof that wealth could buy freedom. "I'm not black, I'm OJ," Simpson once said. A line that revealed the complex intersection of identity, privilege, and public image. Inside the courtroom, it was also a lesson in communication. DNA evidence, revolutionary at the time, was not explained clearly enough to the jury. Complex numbers and scientific terms became meaningless in a trial ruled by emotion. It showed that truth alone is not enough. It must be understood to be believed. In the years that followed, the trial became a cautionary tale. It prompted major reforms in evidence handling and jury management. Police departments across the country re-examined their procedures, and prosecutors learned a painful lesson. Even the strongest case can crumble if public trust is already broken. Yet for many Americans, the emotional wounds never healed. The images of that white Bronco, the divided reactions to the verdict, and the faces of the victims remain etched in collective memory. It was more than a murder trial. It was a mirror reflecting the country's struggles with race, justice, and truth. Today, when people look back, they often ask not just, did he do it? But what did this case say about us? About how easily fame can distort justice. About how quickly outrage can turn into spectacle. About how real lives, Nicole's, Ron's, and their families, became lost in a national argument about race, money, and power. Simpson lived many years after the trial, surrounded by infamy. His later imprisonment for robbery in Las Vegas only deepened the sense of irony, acquitted of murder, but punished for theft. Meanwhile, the victims' families continued their quiet mission, to keep Nicole and Ron's names alive, not as symbols, but as human beings. Decades have passed, but the lessons remain. This case changed how America talks about domestic violence. It changed how the media covers crime, and it changed how we see the justice system. A reminder that truth can be complicated, that evidence can be doubted, and that justice sometimes depends on who can afford the better lawyer. It is also a reminder of empathy, that behind every headline, there are families who wake up every day to the same pain, still searching for peace that the court could not give them. Nearly 30 years later, the story of O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown, and Ron Goldman is not just about guilt or innocence. It is about the human cost of violence, the failures of a system meant to protect, and the deep cracks in a society that watched, judged, and never truly healed. What do you think about this case? Was justice served, or was it denied? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we can uncover more stories together. This content is compiled and analyzed based on publicly available information and open discussions.